Welcome back to the show. My name is Charles Shambry. I belong to the New Horizons Toastmasters Club in Tualatin, Oregon. If you're looking for a club, we invite you. And today on the show we have here JD Chandler. He's here to share his story, his life, at least his book, on Murder and Mayhem in Portland, Oregon. JD, welcome to the show.
Hi, Charles. Thank you very much.
Yes, nice to have you here. I'm glad to see you here in person because I've seen your pictures here and there, and I read parts of your book, and you're kind of like a celebrity to me, and now I get to see you here in the flesh in person.
Thanks.
Nice to have you.
Nice to be here.
What's your background? Are you from here?
Well, I was born in Eugene. I came to Portland in '63, so I'm a relative newcomer. I came back.
That's a joke, right?
That's a joke.
Go ahead.
I came back to Portland in 1996, and that's when my research into Portland history, especially Portland's murder history, really began. I'd recently gone through a situation where my friend was murdered, so it was kind of a fresh topic in my mind. I had a very odd experience in a downtown hotel that made me wonder what had happened in the room I stayed in. And I'm not going to say that I believe in ghosts, but I definitely felt something in this room that was different. And at that time, I started looking for newspaper stories about murders in hotels. I wanted to see what had happened. And I found out eventually that I was staying in the room where Glenda Hornsby had been beaten to death in 1969.
Wow.
I wrote about it on my blog. And so I knew that there was something there. It took me probably 2 years to discover that crime. And along the way, I'd collected a huge collection of very interesting murder stories from all periods of Portland history. And so that was where my blog, the Slabtown Chronicle, came from. The History Press liked my blog, and they asked me to write a book in their series, Murder and Mayhem. They have Murder and Mayhem in several cities across the country.
Yeah, of course.
Murder and Mayhem in Portland, Oregon is my contribution to that. And so I've written 4 books for them now of local history. 3 of them focus on murder and history. The Hidden History of Portland is the one that's really not murder related. And I'm proud to say that they use that at Madison High School to teach a local history class.
That's great.
I love that.
Yeah, so going back a little bit, your background, I think you told me that you were a veteran too and that you do services for vets.
I do. I have done some work with vets. I served in the Army. In fact, I credit the Army's training with the work that I do now because I learned analysis. I learned to collect data and analyze it and make discoveries based on that analysis. And I use a lot of the methods that I used in the Army to look at information about murders and analyze them and analyze the history. So the Army taught me to be intelligent, and now I write books.
They taught you how to be intelligent. That's
exactly.
Great. I love that. They taught me how to cook.
There you go.
I was in food service. Yeah, because you were stationed in Germany, I believe.
I was,
too.
yes,
Yeah.
Augsburg.
Yeah, did you enjoy it? I love Germany.
I love Germany. It was a great place.
Okay.
I would go back any minute.
Very cool, very cool. So share with us your experience in writing, because you mentioned that you've written multiple books.
I have. I've got 4 books from the History Press. Murder and Mayhem in Portland was the first. Hidden History of Portland. And then there's Portland on the Take, which deals with the underworld in Portland in the 1940s and takes a new look at the Joanne Dewey murder case in 1950 and ties it into some illegal activities that were happening in Oregon. And that happened in Vancouver. And we pretty much proved that the men who were executed for Joanne Dewey's murder were not actually guilty of the murder. And we have a pretty good idea of who killed her. We used the detective notebooks of a Multnomah County detective, Walter Graven. And he investigated pretty clearly, and he pretty much solved that murder. His investigation was suppressed by the Sheriff's Department. And then my latest book from History Press is Murder and Scandal in Prohibition, Portland, where we take a new look at the 1946 torso murder, where the victim was never officially identified. We identify a potential victim and look at a possible scenario to solve that crime. So it's kind of interesting to go back and look at these unsolved murders from the past and see what we can learn. The people that I work with have special knowledge. I work with people who have done research, and I work with Don Dupay, who is a homicide detective who knows the workings of the police bureau, especially in the 60s and 70s, very well. But he can give special insight into what police might have been thinking and what they were doing in their investigations. So it's good to have that kind of support on this work. My true love, though, is writing fiction. And my first book, Mud Bay, is a murder mystery. Came out many years ago, and I don't know. You can read it and tell me if it's worth reading. I don't know if it is.
Yeah, because you said that it wasn't that good.
I didn't know how to write a novel when I wrote that.
Okay.
I've gotten better. Last year I wrote a novel called Nightingale. It's a kind of a nightmare presidential election thriller. I'm just finishing a science fiction piece called Life is a Breeze that looks at life in southeast Portland about 30 years from now when there's war in the United States. And my new one that I'm got outlined and I'm getting ready to start as soon as I finish Life with a Breeze, I'm going to start a historical novel set in Portland in 1913 called The Werewolf of Portland. So fiction is what I really love, and I write all the time.
Great. And so what would be your advice to new writers? I'm writing a book. I'm almost done.
Yep.
Got like 2 chapters left.
Yeah, great.
But what would be your advice to new writers?
The most important thing with writing is to write. I took a workshop with a writer that I love, Stephen Barnes, a science fiction writer. He's written many novels. But his theory is that what it takes to write a novel is the commitment to write 1 sentence a day. By the time you write that first sentence, you've done all of the hard work that it's going to take to write for that day. And so you write that sentence, and as long as you do that, you've done enough. But in most cases, once you've done that, more is going to come. And so, some days it's just the 1 sentence because that's all you could point out. Some days, more will flow from that. But as long as you do it every day and you think about that book every day, you'll write it.
Right. Do you miss some days though? Or?
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't miss any days.
That's a joke too.
Yes,
gotcha.
it is.
So tell us about Murder Mayhem. Why did you choose that subject? There's hundreds of different subjects you could have picked. Yeah. But you chose that one. Why?
Yeah. Well, murder has a real personal meaning for me. My friend James Lee was murdered in 1992. I attended the trial of his killer, and it changed my life in a lot of ways. First of all, it made me realize my friend was 27 years old when he died. I was 29, and it made me realize that you don't have to be any age to die. You can die anytime. So that was a wake-up call. And what I realized is that murder has a huge effect on everybody involved. Obviously, it ends somebody's life. The killer, it's kind of the end of the killer's life too. But for all of the people who knew that victim, there's a huge trauma that's involved. And I'm really interested in that. I'm really interested in what that does to people and what they do with that. So my focus on murder is on the victims. And I really have the urge to tell the stories of the lives that were lost. So I like to focus on the victims and tell as much as I can about them. But then there's a lot of other things that are interesting too. And I find murder to be a really good way into history. It helps us see things that we wouldn't remember really in any other way. And then there's the whole point that my work is about self-government. I think the most important issue for Americans, all Americans, is governing ourselves. And frankly, the most important issue of self-government is policing. We have to figure out how to police ourselves fairly. And the most important thing that police do, of course, is finding and catching murderers. So it's good to look at how we've done that, and it's an important way to look at history, I think.
Right, and so that would be the positive way you would look at it? I mean, because murder is not the most, again, positive subject.
Yeah,
so
murder is hard.
So what other specifics or some other examples that we can take from this book and make it relevant and, again, make it a positive
Well, I think that's a really good question because you're right. Murder is a dark subject. And people have asked me all my life why I would look at such a dark thing and concentrate on such dark issues. But I finally came to the conclusion the world's dark whether I make that choice or not. So I have to deal with it. And I'm interested. A lot of people like to read about murder. I like to read about murder too. So I like to write something that I'm interested in reading. And literally anybody is a potential victim of murder. So we can find out about people that we don't remember and how they lived. So I look in Murder and Mayhem, and actually in all my books, I look at African American history, and I look at Asian American history, and I look at women's history, and I look at gay history, because those are the histories that haven't really been told. Right. In fact, if you don't mind, I'm going to tell on you a little bit from our phone conversation.
Tell on me.
When you said that you didn't even realize that Portland had a black history, and I thought, well, there's something that I can do right there, because I can show you Portland has a black history.
Well, I'm glad you put that on TV. But yeah,
Yeah, sorry about that.
I appreciate it. Well, you have an awesome book. We appreciate you. So wrapping up, how do we basically stay in contact with you anyway?
The best way to keep track of my work is through the website patreon.com/JD Chandler. My website there, I update with my blog posts and my podcasts on a regular basis. I have been switching over to fiction, so I'm not doing the same level of posting that I have done there, but I do intend to get back to it. And I am keeping I call them first lookers, and they're people who have donated at least $1. It gives them the first chance to see my work, and I'm keeping them all up to date on my fiction as well. So they're seeing my fiction before anyone else as well. And it's great to have that kind of support as a writer, to have readers that some of them I know, some of them I don't know, but I can kind of count on these are people that are interested in what I'm doing, and they're going to look at it first, and I'm going to hear from them first. So patreon.com/JD Chandler.
Great, thank you. So JD, we appreciate you coming to the show.
Glad to.
We thank you for watching the show. My name is Charles Shambry. You have an awesome, awesome day.
I used to be afraid of speaking in public. Every time I went in front of an audience, my hands became clammy and sweaty, and my heart started pounding, my knees started buckling, and I couldn't breathe. Then I joined a Toastmasters club. I found a safe place where I could practice speaking without worry about mistakes. The members are supportive and encouraging. Thanks to Toastmasters, I overcame my fear of public speaking, and I was just promoted in my job. Now I can speak in front of an audience confidently.
Hi, welcome back. Good to be with you again. My name is Bill Mayer from New Horizons Toastmasters Club. For a few minutes this evening, we're going to talk to James Wantz, who is a member of the club, as well as in a district position. We're going to be talking a little bit about pathways, which is what Toastmasters International has formulated for people to excel in their teaching and leadership skills, similar to what we've done in the past. James, thank you for joining me this evening, and I hope we can talk a little bit about pathways.
Absolutely.
I saw you do a presentation just a couple of days ago, and I really appreciated a couple of the pictures that you had to describe the legacy, which was train tracks. We basically had a communications track and a leadership track, and that's very familiar for those of us who've been in Toastmasters for even a little while. But now Toastmasters is providing pathways, and you provided a picture of a ski area.
Actually, it was Mount Everest.
Mount Everest.
Now, there probably are people skiing on Mount Everest, but the reason I chose the image of Mount Everest is because there are many different ways to get to the summit. And in fact, that image had over 10 different paths that were shown to get to the summit. And I figured it was the best visual metaphor for pathways. Because in the new pathways, the new educational program, there are 10 individual paths that any member can choose one of those paths and proceed all the way through the 5 different levels.
Before we get to talking about the individual paths, I want to see if there's similarities between the legacy and the new pathways. And I've dived into pathways a little bit. When you start with the legacy system, you have the competent communicator, and then you get to the advanced manuals, and there's a lot of options with the advanced manuals. They've done away with, from what I understand, the competent communicator, and they've kind of folded that into all of the different pathways. Would that be an accurate description?
That is true. That is true. The Pathways program takes all of the pieces of the legacy educational program and folds them into the 10 individual paths, as well as liberally sprinkles in brand new content that we haven't seen before. So the icebreaker speech, which everybody is familiar with from the CC manual being the first project that they do, is still the first project in every single path. Because Toastmasters believes, and I also do too, that each time you do your icebreaker speech, you're learning something new about yourself. Whether it's your presentation, whether it's your, I don't know, how you're received maybe, so that the first speech is the same, and then people are going to recognize researching your topic, doing evaluations. All of those pieces are pulled in from the legacy program and are resident within Pathways.
How does one get started navigating pathways?
That is one of the biggest changes for Toastmasters so far, because the legacy program was designed around manuals, actual manuals that we would use and take to our clubs. Pathways is designed as a completely interactive online environment. It lives on Toastmasters International website, so you can go to it on your tablet, your computer, or your laptop for that matter. Once you log in, you choose the Pathways and the Pathways educational program, and it takes you to what is called Basecamp, which is every single member's beginning point with their path and how they interact with an online curriculum. It's set up very much like the online curriculums that you have with colleges. Where people go in, choose projects, have assignments, finish those projects, and then have them checked off within Basecamp. The difference is that the entire interaction is in an online environment as opposed to printed material. Now, I'm a bit of a throwback. I want hard copy. And there is an option within the projects. You can print out the entire manual in a PDF format, and that's what I do.
Okay.
I download the PDF, I print it out, I take the hard copy with me to my club meeting so that I've got my paper, I've got my evaluations, I know exactly what's going on. Because I like the tangible feel of the paper in that regard.
I agree with you on that, and it does have a sense of security with that. Another aspect of the legacy system that I think there has some similarities with the Pathways is I do 10 speeches and I get another level of leadership or communication. Here I'm working for badges. Is it still 10 speeches kind of a thing?
It's actually much faster. Because with the legacy system, you'd have to do those 10 speeches before you'd be a competent communicator. With Pathways, you progress through 5 levels in each of the individual paths, and once you've completed a level, you receive the badge as a completion for that level. Well, level 1, which is the same for all paths, has 4 speeches and 1 evaluator role. So you give 4 speeches, you serve in as evaluator, and you've completed level 1 of your path. Level 2 then starts to take on unique characteristics of the individual path, and you start having specific projects that are related to which path you choose.
Great. Our time is just about up, and I thank you very much for your time and helping us begin to understand a larger picture of Pathways. And I have started. I'm looking forward to it. I think it really is a good adjustment for Toastmasters as we begin the 21st century in a new dimension to Toastmasters International. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
If you have any information that you need regarding Toastmasters or Pathways, go to toastmastersinternational.com, look for a Toastmasters Club, check out Pathways, find out Basecamp, and we hope to see you along your journey. Thank you very much for joining us.
Welcome back to our show. My name is Charles. I belong to the New Horizons Toastmasters Club in Tualatin, Oregon. If you're looking for a club, we invite you. And today on the show we have SV Versatile. He's here to share his story, his experience, his life in Toastmasters. Welcome, SV.
Thanks so much, Charles.
Welcome
Great
to
be
the
here.
show. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm glad. We talked on the phone a little bit, and now we
Yes.
got to hear him in person, in the flesh.
In the flesh, that's right.
Yes. We first met at your club, the Babble-On Club.
Yes,
I think the first
I
time?
recall. I was doing a PowerPoint presentation, visual presentation at that time, and you were able to be there in presence.
Great. And then I think the last time we saw each other was for my club, New Horizons. You came to the Star Trek versus Star Wars
Yes.
presentation. How'd you like that, by the way?
It was fun. I love clubs that are creative, invite the community to become creative with each other, and it's just a good way to let your hair down and have fun. It was great.
Awesome.
And you did a wonderful job hosting.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Toastmastering. Yeah, no,
Thank you
It's not
very
an easy
much.
task, but when one does it well, one recognizes the force was
Awesome.
with us, or with you for sure.
Great. So tell us about your background, where you're from, and what do you do for a living? Because I know you do a lot of different things, so please share with us your background.
Sure, surely. Hence my name, Versatile. I've adopted it and branded and owned that name, so it's my identity. You heard the saying, a jack of all trades. Well, I'm a jack of several trades, and to be a master of a few or some. And there's where I shine is I have to know my purpose, and I've honed on it in 2018. All right, my original name, my first name, Sourixay, actually has a meaning, a beautiful meaning. My dad's a poet. So Suri is in French means light. Sai is victory. Light of victory, beautiful winner, either way you want to put it. So that essence is beautiful. So I kept that as my middle name. So I still want to be a part of where I'm from, Laos. But America, style and versatile, still SV, which is short for what I go by, still suits that bill. And I'm just delighted to go forward, owning up to that and living with purpose.
Great. So tell us about your experience in Toastmasters. How did you first hear about Toastmasters, and what was that process? Please share that story with us.
Absolutely. Toastmasters, I heard around about it throughout school. Never really took a dive into it. And some of my story is when I was a young teenager, I was really ambitious, wanted to be a leader, what have you, and I get in front of the class and start speaking. And I would say are or is and not say it the correct way, and then I would get weird looks. And it really kind of sucks, and that feeling, you get hurt, like, what did I do wrong? So as I realized, speech communication is essential in life and business and relationships, and therefore Toastmasters, not about making toast. I kind of thought that's silly, like a lot of people do.
Yeah, me too.
You eat toast, right? However, it's toasting, giving a toast at a wedding or a business presentation.
Right.
So I realized it's about speech and communication. So I saw the value of that and decided to jump on board about a year and a half ago at Babble-On on a Sunday, which worked with my schedule. And therefore, it's been a journey thus far, for sure.
Great. And you used to belong to the feedbackers group as well?
Yeah, I decided near the end of getting my CC, we do 10 speeches, to spawn and look at other clubs, because that's my stomping ground, Babble-On, but I'm transitioning out of it. So Feedbacker was a very attractive one, as well as Professional Speakers Club. But Feedbackers had a lot of eloquent, I think, professional speakers to the point where they gave you valuable feedback. And that helps us grow as an individual as we communicate, when we get solid feedback that's there to support us and challenge us to become a better version in speaking and what have you. So that's why I joined Feedbackers for a good season. And now I'm actually transitioning out of Toastmasters Babble-On and helping a new one chapter at SEI. I think
That's
you know
right.
SEI, right?
SEI, yes. SEI
Self-Enhancement
changed my
Incorporated.
life. Yeah, I've been with SEI ever since elementary school. It held me all the way through high
that's
school,
cool.
and I'm the person that you see today because of SEI. So that's really
That's
cool. So they
fantastic.
have a club now.
To be. The goal is to launch within a month here, before the next April, officially, and then have a couple representatives do the competitions, right? The local, the regional. We'll see how far we can advance, but that's the vision I see, and helping that club is a great flavor. Every club has a different flavor. What I love about SEI is just a lot of raw young talent that has spirit and heart. They just want to get better at speaking, and that speaks to me as a human being. So I'm doing everything I can to be there first and third Fridays, to be an advocate, Toastmastering at times, stepping up as timer, what have you, whatever roles. There's so many roles, as you're aware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to come to that club. So let me
Bring it.
after this. Let me come. Give me that information.
Great
So
to have you.
Toastmasters has changed your life. Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's changed your life, share how it has changed your life, and would you advise others to join Toastmasters?
Absolutely, Charles. I've learned of a saying that you can't change people, but you can welcome to a life-changing event. Now, Toastmaster is a daily, weekly, monthly, seasonal event kind of thing, where you can go at your own schedule and learn from others' growth and be challenged. And it's the process, right? It's not trying to change overnight. It's going to take days and weeks to months to where you realize, oh, I'm becoming more confident. I nailed that speech, or so-and-so gave me that evaluation I did on my next speech, and you realize that you can adjust and become more proficient at public speaking or just speaking in general. And therefore, it does change lives, and I welcome people to participate. Right? Toastmasters.org is the website where you can just go and see city to city, day to day. I encourage going city to city and going to the website and joining a club to see how the flavor and the vibe is in that club, because every club has its own essence, and when you come back to your own club, hopefully you bring out the best version of what you feel is possible.
Great, good advice.
Absolutely.
So tell us your role right now. What is your role currently at your club, Babble-On?
So I just stepped down from a VP of Public Relations, because I let them know 6 months is all I really had, because I was looking to transition out, and we got a new person in there, and I'm looking to be a co-founder of SEI with Libra Forte, who encouraged us to come check it out, and I heard her and I listened.
I know her,
She's a
yeah.
powerful speaker. Much props to Libra, and it's great just to be in that presence and around that environment on an every other week basis.
Great.
Yeah.
And so looking at how do we stay in contact with you?
Well, Style Versatile, they say, this is my name. Actually, you can .com that, and then you'll be able to learn all the plethora of plans and projects I'm a part of, and you're more than welcome to reach out and say hey, and I'll be happy to hear and give resourceful feedback if I will.
Right, because you have a lot of pins here. Some of
Yeah.
those pins are a part of what you're involved in,
That's how I
right?
bling and do my thing.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's just a notoriety of making it happen.
Okay, great.
I like your pen too, Toastmasters pen there.
I appreciate that.
You bet.
SV, we thank you for coming to the show. We thank you for watching the show. I'm Charles Shambry again, signing off. Have an awesome, awesome day.
I joined Toastmasters to improve my speaking, listening, communication, and leadership skills.
Toastmasters gave me incredible confidence,
Confidence,
Great listening skills.
poise,
great leadership skills.
Leadership skills.
the ability to speak in public,
Strength. A captive audience.
quality feedback from the more experienced Toastmasters.
Toastmasters really helped me improve my listening skills.
Sales skills.
Opportunities to go to different groups and widen my whole horizon.
Toastmasters has given me a more focused me, and I'm a much better listener. Toastmasters is fulfilling.
It's a great place to fail your way to success.
Wonderful way to meet people.
Networking. Strength. It's addictive.
It's a club of self-improvement.
It's an experience, it's a ride that you won't forget, and you'll enjoy it every step of the way.
Toastmasters helped me land a kick-butt job. I sang at one of my table topic speeches, and people liked it and applauded.
My business is doing great, and I'm very, very grateful to Toastmasters.
It's been a great experience for me.
Thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmasters, for giving me so much confidence.
Thank you, Toastmasters, for everything.